Now, Reuters is reporting that Purdue Pharma, which is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in America, is deciding to cut its sales force and will now stop promoting opioids to physicians in response to both criticisms and, more importantly, lawsuits over its role in the opioid epidemic. Now, the drug maker has said it will inform doctors on Monday that its sales representatives will no longer visit physicians' offices to discuss its opioid products and will have now about 200 sales representatives. So they basically said, oh, we're going to cut our sales force in half, from 400 to 200. They said in a statement, we have restructured and significantly reduced our commercial operation and will no longer be promoted opioids to prescribers. Now, they said that doctors with opioid-related questions will be directed to its medical affairs department. Its sales representatives will now focus on potential non-opioid products. The one that they did is something for opioid-related constipation. I just figured I would throw that in there. I don't know why. Now, let's see. Let's get into the more details here about why they're doing this. So, look, I mentioned lawsuits and criticism, right? Yes, this absolutely has to do with these lawsuits. I mean, Purdue is one of the companies that was responsible for sending about half of the 20 million prescription painkillers to a small town in West Virginia, who had about, nearly 2,900 people living in that town. So that's 20 million pills spread out in the space of 10 years to a population of 2,900. That seems like a bit of an overprescription problem. And this was divided by, I believe, 2 or 3 different pharmacies. So, damn, that is a lot of medication. Why would you need that? Well, unless you are actually having this problem with overprescribing these pain pills. Now, the reason that I mentioned West Virginia is because West Virginia is ground zero for this problem. They're one of the states that have been hardest hit by this epidemic of pain pills. Now, Purdue, when it comes to the lawsuits, look, they've been fighting different lawsuits by different states, counties, and cities that have accused them of pushing these painkillers through their deceptive marketing. And again, it drives me crazy that we actually have drug marketing in this country. Now, the lawsuits have accused Purdue of downplaying Oxycontin's addiction risk and of misleading marketing that overstated the benefits of opioids for treating chronic rather than short-term pain. And that is the problem. People have pain. Of course, everybody has times where they have, a short-term pain. And sometimes they'll get prescribed some pretty hefty painkillers. I've been prescribed things like Vicodin before. So I understand, right? The thing is that when you have these more long-term drugs, well, there's more of a chance of getting addicted. Especially if you need chronic long-term care for this or chronic long-term pain relief. Now, Purdue, of course, denied the allegations in the lawsuits. It says, no, this is approved by the FDA. As if that means anything. That just means people in the FDA have been already bought off by these agencies. So now, to show you also how they've gotten in trouble in the past for doing essentially the same thing, I want to go to some of the lawsuits that were brought to them before that they lost. Purdue and 3 executives pleaded guilty in 2007 to federal charges related to the misbranding of Oxycontin. They actually ended up having to pay $634.5 million to resolve a probe by the U.S. Justice Department. That same year, Purdue also reached a $19.5 million settlement with 26 different states in the District of Columbia, and in 2015 agreed to pay $24 million to resolve a lawsuit by Kentucky. So yes, they have a history of doing this. So of misbranding, using doctors to push their medications on people, also they can make a buck. So it seems like they're at fault. Now, here's the thing about them. They're a for-profit corporation. Like, this is what they do. In order to pad their bottom lines, yes, they will have to market. They will give kickbacks even, and they will do whatever they have to do to increase the amount of people using their drug. Again, they're in a for-profit business. So they're like, we got to sell this product. This is our best product. So yes, we're going to do anything we can to do that. So in that regard, they have a sales team. Now, this is a crazy thing because I never thought about it before. We're the only country, I believe we're the only country in the industrialized world that has so many advertisements for prescription drugs. I mean, look, if you watch television at all, you'll see a ton of ads, especially, for example, if you watch cable news, which of course is why cable news, the shows on cable news, MSNBC, CNN, they don't push Medicare for all because they're funded by the drug companies. But when you watch these programs, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a commercial for what the newest drugs are. But you got to understand, they're not marketing for you. No, talk to your doctor about this and this. Talk to your doctor about this drug. Side effects include diarrhea. It's always diarrhea, by the way. It's a side effect, but yeah. So, but they're not marketing to you. They're marketing towards doctors. And they're telling you, hey, go tell your doctor, right? And they do that because this is a $1 billion business. So the fact that this company has a sales team at all is actually highly disturbing. Even though they're like, don't worry, we cut our sales team. Now we only have 200 people that are out there doing our sales for us. Oh, well, ain't that wonderful? Now, there's one more piece here that I want to address. And that, look, some people are worried that this will hurt people suffering from pain, like chronic pain, that it might end up making these drugs less available to people with that pain. And I understand. I hear you. There are other alternatives that you don't necessarily hear. For example, there's kratom, right? Now, kratom is one of those things that the FDA and DEA, they're going after right now because it has properties that basically fit the receptors of the same receptors in your brain that are opioid receptors, right? But they can do so without the risk of respiratory depression and addiction. So you can use kratom for chronic long-term pain and also use it to get away from opioids. There's also cannabis that is also useful for long-term pain management, and that comes with no risk of overdose and minimal risk of addiction. So there are other options for these people. And yes, in states where it's legal. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that more and more people have access to this. And so we need to fight against the pharmaceutical industry because right now they have way too much control over the kind of medications that we're able to do and over our legislative process thanks to the influence of money in politics. So we've got to make sure that we fight for things like access to legal cannabis and expanding access to that, and also protecting kratom from the government's efforts to try and classify it as a Schedule I drug, despite it actually having the ability to do what some of these drugs do, but without a lot of the harmful side effects. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.